Hey everybody, Eric Dorward here with the Spartan Rocketry Club, and we are going to continue our work on our Green Eggs egg lofting rocket. Now, since the last time, I have done a lot of the finishing work. It is spray painted white, so it is basically done. The fins, of course, I did my usual prep work, so they got their wood fill, they got their liquid seal, repeat as necessary, they got primed, and they got sanded between each one. Um, they're they're not perfect, frankly. I mean, they're better than they would have been with just paint, but there's probably could have stood a second round of wood fill. But in any event, it is now spray painted gloss white, which is great, except that that's not what the final color of the rocket's supposed to be. According to our instructions here, this is the only little bit of information we get. And since this came out of a bulk pack, I don't even have a picture to look at, although I'm pretty sure there's one on the box of the bulk pack, which is far, far away. So the information says that most of this is supposed to be white. There's supposed to be a white fin and a green fin, but of course there are three fins. So I went looking on the internet to see what the Estes people think it ought to look like, and they say there should be two green fins. So, comparing my rocket with the picture here, there's a big decal that's supposed to be right in the middle of the rocket, and it's supposed to be in between two of the fins, one of which is supposed to be white and one of which is supposed to be green. Well, that means it's either going to go in between these two fins or in between these two fins. And truthfully, it doesn't really matter which one we do. The only one we can't do, of course, is the one with the launch lug right in the middle, because as it turns out, there's a launch lug right in the middle of it. It's not going to work. So let's just say I'm going to put the launch lug is now pointing straight down. It doesn't really matter which one's which, but let's just say, well, we'll keep this fin white. Now, generally, when you paint, you want to go from light colors to dark colors, so building on top of it, but that's going to require us to make sure that we don't paint over top of the existing gloss white, which is, pretty nice. So how do we go about doing that? Well, masking tape. Here's some masking tape. I use this, but I don't use it for masking when I'm painting. This stuff is, it's not, let's just face it, it's not very good. It has its purposes, but masking for painting is not one of them. So I actually use this a lot with rocketry, but not for painting. So no to that. Second option, it's a little dusty, is some blue painter's tape. This is kind of a mid-grade painter's tape, which you might use if you are painting things in your house. And boy, is it dusty. It is perfectly good stuff. It's fairly thin. It's easy to tear. It is sharp line, so it is pretty good. But what I end up using, I'm going to use this probably, but what I end up using more than anything else is this stuff. This is ultra sharp line, and it has the kind of the consistency of duct tape, but of course it doesn't stick as well, which is good, because if it did, it would either rip the paint off or I wouldn't be able to get it off in the first place, both of which would be bad. So I'm going to use this, and I'm going to use a lot of this for a variety of reasons, but it's good stuff. Now, this stuff it's kind of, I don't know what exactly it's made out of, but I cannot tear this with my finger, so I'm going to need scissors. I'm going to be covering, not the entire rocket, of course. All I'm really painting are these two fins. I'm going to paint them green. So I need to shield this fin. I need to shield the rocket body around the fins. And I'm going to put a piece here and then use a piece of like computer paper or something to shield off the rest of the rocket. So I'm going to start with putting a ring around basically where the fins adjoin. So I'm going to kind of estimate how much tape I need. Hopefully this is the right amount. If it's too much, that's not a problem. It's just going to go, I'm just going to wrap it around. And if it is too little, then that's kind of annoying. I will need more. This might be too little. So to start, I am going to get it repeatedly stuck to the rocket, apparently. Now I'm going to try to line it up using the ends of the fins as a guide. And this would be easier if I didn't need to do it on camera because I'm very much getting my own way trying to hold it up. So I want it to make a nice sharp line here, but I also don't want to be covering up the ends of the fins. So I'm going to give up on that. There we go. I'm just going to put it right at the end and hope that I got it fairly straight. And I'm just holding it as tight as I can as I spiral it around, and hopefully it goes right over the top of the piece that I already put down. I want it as flush as possible here. All right. So you can see there's a little bit of overlap here. It's not a perfect ring, but it doesn't really need to be. This one is just to protect. It's kind of like a baseline before I tape the rest of the computer paper over the top of this. So that doesn't need to be too perfect. All right. Again, I want this fin white and these two green. So the next little bit I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be covering the junctions between the fins and the tube. So I'm going to get this right up close to the fin. It's especially important that you smooth it out because this stuff is very good at blocking paint, but it actually needs to be like sticking in order for that to happen. So if you just have it loose or there are bubbles or anything in here, the paint is very, very good at sneaking under them. So you want to make sure that that is firmly fixed. And I'm going to repeat the process here a couple times. Unfortunately, because of how durable this stuff is, I need to use scissors each time to cut it, instead of just being able to tear it. But yeah, it's the price we pay. Now, I've got a little bit of extra here, and I'm noticing that I have a little bit of a gap here. As you can see that the paint will get in there, of course. So I'm just going to use a little bit of tape there to cover that up. And smooth everything out. All right, again, white fin, green fins. So I've got these edges done. I need to edge this one as well. It's the same basic deal here. It's probably more than I need. Smooth it down. And notice that I'm tucking the excess kind of, there's a, if you can see it there, there's a gap in here. I don't really care what happens to this. I'm going to stick a dowel in here in order to paint it. So protecting the inside of the motor mount is, I don't want to get a lot of paint in there, but that's not really a big deal. I'm not going to worry about that too much. I don't really care what happens to the inside here between the motor mount and the main rocket body, but I'm covering it because it's a lot easier to do that than try to trim it exactly to fit my needs. Okay. And then this is the last one that goes along along the edge of the fin. Fold it over nicely, smoothed out, double checking all my edges here because this is part of the reason why I bought this stuff. I like this stuff. This is perfectly fine, but I don't know, it seems to not stick as well right in the corners, and I've had plenty where the paint is kind of leached underneath the tape, and that looks ugly. So we're going to try to avoid that. I also want to check here. Remember, this one needed a little bit of tape to cover up a little gap. My first piece of tape is basically where I need it, so that looks fine. All right, green fins, they're going to get painted. This fin needs to be protected. Yeah, I might as well I can use this stuff. So this is much easier to work with, so it's going to save me a little bit of time here. And you know what? Change my mind. Let's actually stick with the good stuff, just in case, because it's spray paint. It'll get everywhere. I don't want to end up with a surprise there at the end when I take off this bit of tape, and I don't want to find that something is seeped in where I did not expect it. That would be bad. So might as well, done 2 fins, might as well do the third as well this way. There we go. Now, that's pretty good. This fin, it looks like, is not 100% as far back as it should be either, which is a bit of a surprise. That's okay, because this is going to be the white fin. Yeah. I suppose what I could do is, I'll use a little bit of this. Use a little bit of this tape, and I'll just kind of cover that bit where things didn't quite match up as well as they should. That's fine. All right, so this fin needs to be protected. Let me get myself kind of a double long piece of tape here. I should be able to cover the whole bottom of the fin with this piece. And I'm going to do it like so. I'm going to get it, I'm going to get it all the way down into the crack. So snug-ish against the bottom. Actually, I'm going to give myself a little bit more to work with in the back. That should be pretty good. Notice that it is overhanging back here. I'm going to wrap it around like this. And I'm going to make sure that it is covering as much as I can muster on the front end too. I'm going to seal this up, kind of fold it over, and then this we can just fold up like so, and have a look to see if anything's peeking. There's a little tiny bit of white there that I can see, but I'm not going to worry about that. That's pretty well covered. The last bit, I can repeat the process, I guess, because it looks like, that should be wide enough. I don't need as much tape because there's less fin to work with here. Just so long as it's all covered, that's the goal. I'm actually gonna take this approach this time. Okay. Cover it up, kind of seal the tape to itself. It's like I'm making a rocket mummy here. Okay. Yeah, this is probably not the most efficient way of going about painting these things, but I'd rather take extra precautions and make sure the stuff that I don't want to get its color changed doesn't get changed. Now, the last little bit, I'm going to need a piece of computer paper, which I'm not going to do here, but it's pretty straightforward. I'll just use a piece of the instructions to demonstrate. All you really need to do here is I usually start with covering, going right into the launch plug, and then just wrap it up. Put a piece of tape here to hold this part, and then wrap. And then when it's all wrapped up, put another piece of tape to hold it. You might want one down here too, but that one's less important. This one is the one that matters. All right, so this thing's ready to be painted. That'll be done off camera. And then the last little bit is final constructions. So I will see you then.